and bienvenidos to Pica Poco Kitchen. Today I make, or attempt to make, Sachertorte for my sister. Vámonos! Born in Wien, Austria in 1832, created by pastry chef Franz Sacher, it was invented or created for the court of Clement Metternich. It was so famous and it gained so much popularity all throughout Austria that later on it was in dispute for its copyright. So this is a cake that is not just wonderful and rich in history, it is also copyrighted. So there is no license for its distribution. So if you ever want to try the original recipe, which is under lock, you would have to go to the Hotel Sacher in Wien, Austria, to try the original recipe, an original piece. From there on, everybody loves this cake and we have all tried to replicate. So if you try this cake any other place, is just an approximation of what the original recipe is, which is. So everybody has their own version of this cake. Just like today, I'm gonna share with you the version of the closest thing that I can get to a Sachertorte, or as I know it, the Chocolate King. This cake, especially today, is very special for me because it is the cake that my sister and I grew up loving. Every special occasion, whenever they ask us which cake we wanted, it was this one. There was a small bakery near my dad's restaurant that have these wonderful cakes, but the star of them all was, as they called it there, the King of Chocolate. A delicious interpretation of the Sachertorte, dressed with nice chocolate glaze, chocolate ganache, and a good big dollop of whipped cream. And why am I making this? That is not Mexican today, you may ask. Well, I have a very good reason, and it is because my sister is coming to visit me today. And I wanted to surprise her. Now she is a baker, I am not, but I put all my effort and tears into making this cake that is so special for both of us, and I hope she likes it. I hope I don't ruin it and ruin all the memories that we have with it. But I guess you'll be the judge of that, or she'll be the judge of that, because she will be here tasting it with you. So, loads of steps, but it's not that complicated. So, let's get to it. I'm gonna start by melting my 130 grams of chocolate in a broiler. You can use whatever melting method you prefer. You're gonna see me going from one step to another. I designed the steps in order to have a time-efficient way that would work for me. But feel free to decide what steps you like to do first. I also want to melt my chocolate to give it time to cool off before I add the rest of the ingredients, because I am not looking forward to a chocolate omelette. While the choc is cooling down, I'm gonna cream together 130 grams of butter and approximately 65 grams of sugar, which is more or less half the amount of the total sugar for the cake recipe. I decided to cream them by hand because I only own one bowl for my mixer and I was reserving that for the egg whites, and I really didn't want to wash more than I needed. Into my now slightly melted butter and sugar, because I left it near the stove, I'm gonna add 4 egg yolks that I'm gonna whisk well to combine before adding my chocolate. Add your chocolate and mix well. Now with my machine, I'm gonna beat up the 4 egg whites with the rest of the sugar for the cake mix. The sugar will help my eggs to have a strong structure because the cake doesn't use any chemical leavening. So all the air that I build up in the egg whites is gonna help the structure of the cake. So make sure to beat them well until you can flip your bowl over and nothing falls down. And to build a cake, we're gonna alternate between the flour, the egg whites, adding them in at least 3 parts to the chocolate mixture. I'm using 115 grams of cake flour. I'm sifting it over the chocolate base, and I'm gonna add 1/3 of the flour with 1/3 of the egg whites. Mix them and integrate them well before you continue. I almost forgot to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which I added at this point. It would have been better to add it to the flour, but it's alright. And also, don't be like me and add a splash of vanilla to your chocolate mixture. Vanilla always goes well with chocolate. And another reason to make sure to build up a good structure in your egg whites is because we're gonna incorporate it to the rest of the ingredients. We're gonna do it in folding movements, but since it's strong enough, I don't have to be as careful. I can be a little bit more thorough, making sure to mix everything well and avoiding white streaks, because if they stay there, then your cake, once baked, is gonna have those white streaks on it. And not just that, but the flavor is not gonna be completely incorporated. So make sure to build strong egg whites. When everything is evenly combined, you're gonna move on back and forth with the flour and the egg whites until your ingredients are done. With the batter ready, I am going to prepare the mold I'm gonna bake it in. I chose an 8-inch mold. I'm using the wrapper of the butter to grease it up. I cut a round piece of parchment to put at the bottom, and I'm gonna go back with that same piece of wrapping for the butter to do a little bit of a rub on top of it and make sure to do it well on the sides. Carefully, I'm gonna slowly pour down the cake batter on my mold, trying to avoid getting rid of any air. Remember, that's gonna determine the volume of your cake. It's gonna grow a little bit more on the heat of the oven, but it's better to keep as much air in your batter as you possibly can. So be delicate when spreading it out to the sides of your mold. Make sure to have your oven preheated at 350 for a smooth transfer to the oven, and we're gonna bake it for 40 minutes. The sacher on its own is a dense and dry cake. That's why it is normally infused with simple syrup. To make the simple syrup, I'm going to use equal parts of sugar and water, which in my case is 1 cup of each. I'm going to bring it to the stove in medium heat and let it boil. Clean up the surface if any scum comes out. Once it's boiling, turn it off and remove it from the heat. And because this is a sacher, it needs alcohol. Traditionally, it uses kirche. In my case, I'm gonna use orange liqueur, but you can use rum as well. I like to do this once my syrup is off the stove to keep the alcohol content. When my cake is out of the oven, I run a spatula all around the edges just to make sure it won't stick and let it cool down between 10 to 15 minutes. After that, I'll flip it over and put it on a rack to completely cool off. And from this moment on, I'll warn you, it's gonna be a mess. So I'm trying to use this tool that I have to even the top of my cake, which was a disaster. So if you were thinking about getting one, just don't. Use a knife, it's more efficient. The top of the cake is gonna become the bottom half of the cake. I hope that makes sense. To get there, I need to cut my cake in half. I have my cake standing on a plastic plate to ease the movement of it while moving the knife all around the edges of the cake first until I get to the middle. I did a poor job, but it worked in the end. If you want to avoid this and you want a taller cake, you can double the amounts, bake 2 cakes, and use one on top of the other. I think that this cake is quite heavy in flavor, but it's all up to you and however you feel more comfortable working with your cakes. I'm gonna prep my rack with some plastic wrap because I'm gonna pour over the syrup and I'm trying to avoid making more of a disaster. Also, because this way I can straight wrap them up and put them to rest in the fridge. They can stay there for 1 hour or overnight. For the glorious ganache, I'm gonna take half a cup of heavy whipping cream to the stove right before it begins to simmer. Once it's nice and hot, I'm gonna dump it over 150 grams of chocolate. I recommend bittersweet or semi-sweet good quality chocolate for a better ganache. Let it sit for a couple of minutes and then come back and start mixing and watch it start glowing, melting, and becoming this luscious temptation. After my cake has been resting in the fridge overnight, I'm gonna start adding the filling. And for that, I'm gonna use 1 cup of apricot jam that I heated up in the microwave for 30 seconds. Spread it nice and evenly and do as much as you want. The more you add, the more slippery your cake assembling will be. I tell you for experience, but hey, you can't resist this much jam on your cake. And as I told you before, this tends to be a dry cake, so having a good amount of jam is really, really nice. I placed my cake on top of a bowl to lift it up from the table so I can pour over the ganache and dripped nicely all over the top and sides, which kind of work. But I also added a piece of parchment because I thought that will help the transportation of the cake later. Spoiler alert, it didn't work as planned, but well, here we are now. I'm pretty sure there must be a better technique and better tools to do it, but in all honesty, I also blame it on the hands doing the techniques and using the tools. My only hope is that the ganache will even itself out so it won't look as disastrous as it is right now, so fingers crossed. And now you'll bear witness of my ape-like daintiness trying to transport the cake from one plate to another. Just a complete mess. Whatever I did, do not recommend. Now that my heart rate is back to normal, I can let my cake chill in the fridge for a couple of hours or you can leave it overnight so the ganache hardens. After that, with the rest of your ganache, you can heat it up and write the traditional sacher on top of your cake. But if you don't do that, it's perfectly okay. You can also write an S on top of each slice of cake. But whatever you do, don't forget to have your whipping cream ready to serve a nice dollop of it next to your slice. And here it is. The cake is not my sister, but we can fix that with a little bit of magic. So, all the way from San Luis Potosí to the Pico Poco kitchen in Virginia, here she is. My sister! Okay, get a surprise. You have to guess. What is it?
Maybe a cake?
Oh! What cake?
Chocolate cake.
Which chocolate cake?
I don't know, maybe Sacher?
Woo! Ding, 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 ding! If the acting was too obvious, it's because she already knew. We've already tried it. But we didn't film that. So, just follow along. Okay, I've seen her try it, but now you need to see her try it.
Okay. Delicioso.
Okay, it is good. It is pretty good. The thing is, it's not a surprise anymore. ¿Se parece al que comíamos de niñas?
Se parece, sí. No es lo mismo, pero se acerca mucho.
Pretty close. My cake turned out to be pretty ugly, pretty close, but pretty good. And there you have it, my friends. An interpretation of the Sachertorte. I hope you make it. And if you find one better, please let me know. I'll be willing to try it. So if you like this recipe, just like this video, please share it with your friends. Like, subscribe, and be notified. And for more, follow me on the socials. Until now, I'm gonna hang out with my sis and my niece. So, adios, amigas.
Adiós. Mejor es la crema batida.